My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask you for pardon of my sins and grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Mother Immaculate, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. Your words, Lord, are spirit and life. You have the words of everlasting life. Everlasting life, everlasting happiness, heaven. This is why you, Jesus, became man, to reveal that you are the way, the truth, and the life. Life with a capital L, because that's heaven, that's happiness. And you are my highway to heaven, or better said, you are my freeway to heaven. Am I ready to take that freeway? Today's gospel shows us how you, Lord, were talking to your disciples, asking them who people said you were. And then they hastened to answer. Some said John the Baptist, others Elijah. And you said, well, but who do you say that I am? Peter spoke up, St. Mark records, and said, you are the Christ. And then you, Lord Jesus, began to teach them that the Son of Man was destined to suffer grievously, to be rejected by the elders and the chief priests and the scribes, and to be put to death, and after 3 days to rise again. He said this all quite openly. And St. Peter started to remonstrate with you, Lord, no. What's this about suffering grievously? What's this thing about being rejected by people? What's this thing about being put to death? No way, Jose. And you, Jesus, in no uncertain terms, turned to Peter, rebuking him and saying, get behind me, Satan. Wow. Because the way you think is not God's way, but man's. I place myself in the scene with the other disciples. There must have been a hush that descended over those disciples. A hush, and maybe Peter began to blush and think to himself, I gotta get out here in a rush. I'd like to believe, Jesus, that after you so strongly remonstrated him, you gave him a big hug. Told him, don't worry, Peter, you will understand that I am the way, the truth, and the life. I'm the freeway to heaven. And the freeway is suffering. The freeway is death. The freeway is the cross. Am I ready to take the freeway to heaven? Am I ready to take up my cross daily? There's a book that I just finished reading. It's entitled He Leadeth Me, authored by Father Walter Zizek. He's a Jesuit priest of Polish origin who was in the United States and then posted to Russia for his missionary work. And whilst exercising his priestly duties, he was arrested in Russia by the communist regime, and he was thrown into jail. He didn't know that he was going to be in jail for a long time, that is 23 years in total, 10 of them in a Siberian jail. And he went through really tough times in those 23 years. Just one incident that caught my attention was how on one of the first few days he was thrown into a room where there was coal falling all over him. And the coal kept on falling on him. He didn't have enough strength. He hadn't been eating enough because he wasn't being given enough. And he had to shovel the coal. And he didn't have strength, but he had to shovel the coal or he would die. And this was the kind of regime. I mean, it wasn't going to prison to till the land. It was tough, hard labor. And many prisoners died in those conditions. At some point, he thought to himself, Should I exercise my priestly ministry? Because if I'm caught by the informers, I could be executed. And in talking to you, Jesus, in prayer, which is what I'm doing with you now, Lord, he discovered your will, that he should be a priest. And so he started on a daily basis trying to celebrate the Holy Mass. Even if it was very difficult, he did not have vestments, he did not have an altar. Sometimes he would celebrate in a shack, other times he would celebrate in a trench, but he would celebrate the Holy Mass with great devotion. So much so that other priests who were also in the jail in Siberia encouraged to celebrate Mass. And they would make this great sacrifice of not having breakfast, meager as it was, so as to keep the Eucharistic fast. A while later, prisoners started joining them, taking that fast, missing out on the meager breakfast so that they could receive you, Lord Jesus Christ. Yes, Jesus, you are the freeway to heaven. And that freeway is suffering. That freeway is the cross. That freeway is the Holy Mass. Is the Holy Mass. In this life of ours, we must expect the cross. Those who do not expect the cross are not Christians, and they will be unable to avoid their own cross, which will drive them to despair. These are words of Saint Josemaria from the book called The Forge. In this life of ours, we must expect the cross. Jesus, help me to expect the cross today. Perhaps I already have a cross. Maybe I have a headache. Or it could be that it's a gray day and I'm feeling equally gray. Or am I anxious about something? Someone I have to meet, a deadline that I have to keep, an exam that I have to sit. Then I shouldn't be surprised. Peter didn't have the big picture. That's why he might have come and told you, Lord, no, you can't suffer. There's no way that you should go to be put to death. No. But it would only be later, when you instituted the Eucharist, that he would come to understand that everything, especially suffering, that might appear to be apparently meaningless, has a purpose. That's why the disciples who were on their way to Emmaus, away from Jerusalem, walking away from their own vocation, when they were in your company, they listened to you and they invited you to their home to stay with them. And there you broke the bread. You celebrated the Holy Mass. And then you disappeared. The two disciples said, were not our hearts burning within us that you, Lord Jesus, were present? Were not our hearts burning to understand the cross is part of that freeway to heaven? That the Mass is a freeway to heaven, because it is the representation of the sacrifice of Calvary. So my Lord Jesus Christ, as I come to the end of this time of prayer, I ask you to help me to see that even the apparently meaningless headache, the day that is grey, the anxieties that I have, they are the crosses that I must expect, because I am Christian. Not a day should go by without a cross. May I expect those crosses. And when they come my way, well, the headache, I can offer it up to you, braving that headache with a smile, but also sometimes just taking some medicine if it persists. If I'm feeling a little bit grey, I can still work out the energy to put on a smile. It's not the end of the world that it's a great day. I can offer that up to you, Lord Jesus. I can bring this especially to my Holy Mass that I attend on Sundays or even during the course of the week, because the Mass is a free way to heaven. It is there that I discover that those apparently meaningless moments of suffering have a purpose. They are your cross. They are what bring me that everlasting life. Your words, Lord, are spirit and life. You have the words of everlasting life. I give you thanks, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations you have communicated to me in this meditation. I ask you for help to put them into effect. My Mother Immaculate, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.